Thanks for joining Veiled Mystic today as we examine the Japanese cryptid Yamauba. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this presentation. The Yamauba, Japan's ancient crone of the mountains. The folklore of Japan contains a diverse array of supernatural creatures and spirits rooted in the country's unique spiritual traditions. Among these beings is the Yamauba, a mysterious crone-like yokai of remote mountains and forests with a dangerous reputation of enchanting wayward travelers when not outright accosting them. While her exact origins remain obscured by the mists of time, the Yamauba endures as a legendary Japanese predator whose mythical legacy continues capturing the popular imagination today in literature and media. So just who or what is this ancient demon witch of Japan's peaks, and why does her ambiguous legend still bewitch us centuries later? Origins and names. As with many animistic cultures, the yokai spirits of Japan evolved fluidly over eras through mingling folk beliefs, oral traditions, episodic migrations, and aspects of Shinto, Taoism, Buddhism, or imported Chinese mythology blending across regions. The enigmatic Yamauba seems no exception as scholars debate roots tying her to mount goddesses, demonized minority clans driven from lowland societies, or transformed beasts from the indigenous Bakemino shapeshifter traditions. In terms of etymology, the Yamauba name itself breaks down as Yama meaning rural mountain regions and Uba translating loosely to crone or witch. Together the compound word conjures visions of mysterious lone women inhabiting desolate peaks and valleys far from civilized society's safe stable order. Additional Japanese names for the crone demoness include Yamanba, likely the oldest known term used. Hamauba, contains hag or bewitching connotations. Tafu Kozu, the tofu boy referencing a common modern myth. So with these syllabic meanings of mountain which well established, what does the folklore actually describe regarding Yamauba's notoriety and strange habits according to village rumors? Description and characteristics. Reports of Yamauba from antiquated regional stories describe her as an ancient elderly woman resembling a short witch or troll-like being living reclusively high up mist-shrouded mountainsides enveloped by forest. More specifically, the crone spirit manifests with an extremely ancient appearance, far older than any non-spirit being could naturally attain, long unkempt white hair draping over her shoulders and back, glowing red eyes, or sometimes just one cyclopic eye, pointed ears or occasional horns, extremely long spindly arms and legs, holding a wooden staff for navigation assistance, sometimes appearing as just a floating, cackling disembodied head surrounded by ghostly flames. In essence, any passerby spotting a tiny wizened lady bearing these combined traits deep in the Japan spiderweb of wooded hills and winding hiking trails would immediately realize they face no ordinary vagrant or hermit. For such describes the classic form of legendary Yamauba herself, apparently wandering the mortal plane when not sequestered away in her remote lair or cloud-shrouded rooftop gazing over the human realm. Personality-wise, tales suggest the yokai crone often switches between an eccentric grandmotherly warmth and sudden child-hungry ogress danger, much like the iconic Baba Yaga of Russian folk myths or child-luring American Navajo figure Initiate Tuaza. Her whims prove terribly fickle when encountering lost travelers or isolated village children wandering too far from family compounds. This shape-shifting quality between nurturing maternal gentleness and swift transformation into a gluttonous baby-stealing witch or even man-ravishing succubus fuels the disorienting aura surrounding unpredictable Yamauba whenever she appears peripherally cackling away. Behind feigned concern could hide a starving belly after all. Where her true inclinations sway at any given encounter proves a perilously open question. Now that we've uncovered her basic visage and mercurial nature, what other connections and abilities does folklore ascribe to the unnerving Yamauba of Japan's peaks? Powers and behavior. Beyond simply accosting weary travelers seeking refuge when they stumble into her remote lair, legendary tales of close encounters with the enigmatic Yamauba crone spirit attribute her a number of other supernatural traits befitting a demoness. Shape-shifting mastery. As a Bakemino or animal spirit turned yokai, the Yamauba likely retains potent abilities to transform into a variety of forms, both fearsome and innocuous. Even her humanoid appearance stays deceptive, as she may alter height, voice and mannerisms to suit changing ploys. Sorcerer's glamour magic. Drawing from ancient styles of witchcraft, some accounts show Yamauba weaving hypnotic illusory spells, able to psychically disguise terrain, hide or mount hovel or assume alluring illusory beauty, capable of beguiling even wise monks, samurai or rival sorcerers into obeying her whims. Weather manipulation. The crone and her mountainous haunts often seem shrouded by strange mists, lightning strikes and wisps able to blind or disorient travelers towards hidden abysses. Some legends further depict the Yamauba riding tempests for faster demonic travel methods or emotional release. Storm and fog bend to her ancient airs. Tooth and bone magic. Tales featuring the ogress-like aspect of man-eating Yamauba describe her crafting fetishes, charms and cursed relics from the finger bones, teeth and hair of previous victims she devoured or transformed, using occult lore from her immortal centuries observing civilizations rise and fall around her. Macabre souvenirs indeed. Tree/forest magic, as a spirit tied to old-growth forests and primal magic owning loyalty from other plant and animal spirits, the Yamauba reputedly commands uncanny influence over surrounding flora and fauna environments she inhabits. Even well-armed woodsmen hunting her mythic groves would face enchanted trees, sea logs, puzzle trails and rock slides protecting their mistress. Gluttonous appetite, when assuming her darker aspect closer to the modern archetype of baby-craving witch, legends warn of the Yamauba's insatiable appetite for human flesh and life essence equal to her more seductive thirst for admiration by spellbound mortal paramours she periodically takes before tiring of their affections. Her kitchen always has room for another ingredient. So through this diverse sorceress blend of earth magic, illusory enchantment and pathological hungers when operating away from kinder facades, the Yamauba perfectly embodies Japan's cultural unease around wild environments and suspicion of strange elderly women living destitute yet self-reliant lives apart from village control mechanisms. For who knows what occult mischief or mouth-watering dinner plans her next unassuming victim unwittingly foils or feeds, now that we understand the tangled folkloric roots behind forest spirit-turned-child snatching witch known as Yamauba, what explains her greater cultural symbolism and continued prominence today? Symbolic meaning and modern appearances. While accounts of actual Yamauba appearances dwindled as remote shrines, temples and mountaintop hamlets diminished across Japan during recent centuries, her enduring lore still resonates in the nation's creative realms for intriguing symbolic reasons that enthrall new generations. Womanhood oppression. Scholars point to the Yamauba's demonization from goddess figure over centuries, paralleling increased patriarchy across ancient Japan, which marginalized powerful women as deviant dangers to cementing male authority through feudal systems. Her evil trope warned against feminine independence. Natural world conquering. Historic attempts vigorously colonizing, mining and logging Japan's central mountain ecologies face massive troubles taming the Lord's elemental forces. Hence positioning the Yamauba as embodiment of untamed wilderness offered psychological leverage against raw nature's fury. Rejection of societal responsibility. Modern stressful work culture expects ceaseless contribution and conformity. The Yamauba's defiant solitary lifestyle provokes fantasies of abandoning duty to instead indulge selfish freedom. She follows no master yet survives. So with these underlying social pressures brewing in Japan's history despite industrialization, the camp's mountain witch Yamauba continues featuring symbolically in books, manga, comics and horror movies as these uneasy archetypes manifest. For example, graphic novels like The Drifting Classroom depict her menacing youths. Films from Samurai Ghost Story to the Great Yokai War showcase her mischief and mayhem. Anime including Inuyasha the movie reference her infamy. Video games allow players to battle the crone spirit's magic directly. So while her glory days tricking feudal travelers wane, the Yamauba's modern pop culture resonance endures through darker empowered femme fatales, badass grandma protagonists and reflections of retreating wilderness now evoking ambivalent nostalgia rather than dread of the savage unknown. Perhaps as modernity's strains accumulate, creatives increasingly feel drawn towards her anarchic freedom without obligation. The Yamauba's alluring demonic rebellion against disappearing tradition indeed never falls fully out of fashion, it seems. Behind pop culture renderings echoes the ongoing pull still haunting society's peripheral vision, to abandon everything and flee alone, cackling to the misty peaks. Infamous myths and folktales. Beyond symbolic ties, the Yamauba perseveres through a handful of particularly chilling legendary encounters, folk history records across centuries. The ruined temple gate. In one story from 1800s rural tradition, villagers ponder a small torii gate standing oddly intact despite the ruined derelict mountain shrine it once fronted having collapsed entirely decades before from storm damage. None can explain the gate's miraculous preservation against such odds, until a group of drunkards glimpse the Yamauba using the stone structure as her personal doorway between forest and ghostly realms. The bloodied kimono. Different village records tell of a farmer and his son encountering an elegantly dressed woman lying motionless at the mountain path's base one afternoon. Assuming her a victim of violence, they carry the attractive yet gravely injured lady home to recuperate overnight, only to witness her vanish without a trace after placing a child-sized, blood-stained kimono before their gate the next dawn. The cackling fireball. 18th century diaries of monks seeking forest seclusion reference various sightings of a glowing fiery shape racing over mountain tree lines while emanating a piercing elderly woman's laughter cascade on nights electrical storms failed brewing. Records call this phenomenon the thundering Yamauba, bringing rains and curiosity despite disturbance. So from crumbling shrines to bloodied close to aerial fireforms above tilted pines, myriad local legends chronicle the Yamauba's lairs and mischief across Japan's besieged wilderness from ancient through feudal and early modern eras. Though she largely avoids mortals in modern times as forests shrink, the symbolism and mystery lingering in her near-forgotten vales persists eternally. For who still knows just what a stray hiker may discover along rarely trodden paths off the beaten track when sunlight fades through those lonely ridges? An eerie dwelling place untouched by decades may yet reveal itself, welcoming equally lost souls or hungering demons. The tofu boy myth and modern archetypes. A couple especially prominent Japanese myths illustrating the modern Yamauba's dual loving yet lethal aspects bear closer examination for their cultural influence, preserving her notoriety into recent times. The tofu boy tale. This popular cautionary story tells of a poor young village boy named Tabayo who loses his father early on and sells tofu on mountain paths to provide for his struggling mother. But eventually Tabayo goes mysteriously missing on delivery routes after meeting a kindly grandmotherly woman needing food. The anguished mother's searches finally reveal an isolated hut where ancient Yamauba imprisons Tabayo, fattening him up with lavish cooking to eat his tasty flesh soon. Though nearly blinded by dark magic, the loving parents' pleas finally stir the crone's long-buried humanity and she releases the boy unharmed for devotion's strength, dispelling wickedness. Likely partly allegorical warning rural youths about stranger danger and mistrusting food from unknown mountain residents, this story crystallized the modern image of child-craving Yamauba capturing imaginations across Japan to endure through modern oral traditions. Folk hero Yamauba. Contrasting the sinister monster, some Japanese chronicles laud Yamauba as an outcast wandering wise woman and healer blending herbcraft, midwifery and magic freely for oppressed peasant communities despite ongoing persecution by warring religious sects in medieval Japan. These rare heroic tales perhaps preserve glimpses of once goddess-like roles before conquest-era subjugations reduced her status to dangerous disgraced hag archetype mistrusted by feudal warlord rulers. Of course, in folk beliefs of animistic cultures, deities and demons easily intertwined across generations as wars degraded yesterday's goddess into today's terror. With the Yamauba crone we find she never entirely fits either role neatly. So through these prominent legends, the core duality of nurturing protector versus hungry destroyer underpinning Yamauba lore carries forth to ensnare modern imaginations with enduring mystery of her true proclivities once lost in the misty peaks. Is she friend or deadly temptation for those finding her remote sanctuary unbidden? What still lurks up among those whispering pines? Yokai ghosts. In summary, the Yamauba persists as one of Japan's most psychologically compelling yokai ghosts, an alienated wilderness spirit bridging history from revered mountain goddess to demonic child stealing witch over successive invasions. But through whispered myths, oral lore and artistic reimagining, her archetype still attracts and disturbs the collective cultural mind today. Where her exact origins remain obscured prior to written records, the Yamauba goddess turned ogress stands immortalized for dispatching various magical misfortunes and fatal temptations upon vulnerable travelers approaching her fog-veiled domains. Behind hypnotic illusions promising comfort awaits too often a hungry set of teeth and bottomless appetite. Yet despite menacing legends of the crone's gluttony for human meat, seduction by surrendering to her advances or losing oneself chasing the strange lights over mountain passes, the Yamauba also evokes an outsider's freedom living beyond society's tiring rules which every outcast finds alluring even today. Hers is a fierce liberty from social chains which terrifies as much as inspires. Love her or dread the witch, the Yamauba now firmly embodies Japan's mythic bond between primal magic and wilderness contrasted against creeping modernity, with any who still dare to leave civilized roads risking eternally disappearing into her timeless dangerous realm. Nothing stirs easy answers from those silent pines holding forgotten worlds inside. And the Yamauba's glowing lantern sweeps deep within hearts tempted.